Okay, so last time we were discussing about encapsulation. Just go back to the slide. So we discussed about objects and classes last time, and we started with encapsulation. So we have discussed that objects and classes are the main features because of which polymorphism, encapsulation, inheritance, and abstraction, all these things are possible in object oriented programming language. And I think encapsulation ka we were done with the general definition. This also we were done. Did we do this slide last time? Encapsulation in an organization?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll see, like in the last lecture, what we have seen encapsulation is all about safety of the data. What we are doing, we are putting the variables and methods in one unit, and that unit is called as class, and we are safeguarding or protecting, providing another level of security to the variables and methods of the class. Though encapsulation is nothing but wrapping up of data and functions in the single unit. And what we are doing, the internal structure is hidden from the outside world in case of encapsulation. Now we'll see a simple example, a very simple example. How do we enforce encapsulation in one organization? So we have an organization, we have finance department, and we have sales department as well. Now, in case the finance department person wants to know some information about the sales, so what he has to do in that case, he need to contact, like he'll be thinking what he can do, and then he will be contacting someone from the sales department, and that sales department person is going to get the information about the sales, and then she is the one who will be having the access to the sales department information. So this is a type of encapsulation in an organization, that the finance department person do not have the direct access to the data of sales department. He needs to contact someone who is internal in the sales department. So we can say a person from finance department needs data about the sales of a particular month. If he wants the data for a month, then he is not allowed to directly access the data in the sales department. So what he needs to do to get the data, he will first have to contact someone from the office of sales department, and that someone who is in sales department will be able to provide the information about the sales of a particular month. This way we are protecting, we are safeguarding the data which is there in the sales department, so that it should not happen that any random person from the organization is coming and accessing that data. Only some people who have the rights will be able to access that information, and then they will decide whether it is okay to pass on the information to someone else outside the sales department or not. So this is how we are providing encapsulation in an organization. Now, whenever we are talking about encapsulation, polymorphism, any inheritance, all these features, there is one small special aspect that is called as access specifier. Access specifier tells that whatever information you have, how much information you are comfortable in passing on, and how much information you want to be very much safe, and it should be kept secure, and it should not pass on outside the class. So to understand access specifier, we'll do a small activity. So suppose this is you. So you have information about your KT records, your name, age, passwords, and your other secrets. Now, out of all these, what will you be passing to everyone? What is some information that you can share with everyone? Can you just quickly write in the chat? So there are three categories: what information you will provide to everyone, what information you will keep only to yourself and you don't want to share it with anyone, and what is the information that you can share only with your close friends. So quickly write in the chat, out of these 1 2 3 4 5 information, what will you provide to everyone, what you will keep to yourself, and what information you can share with close friends. Quickly write in the chat. I want the answers in the chat from everyone. So I'm waiting for your replies. Okay, so I've got some replies. Public will be name and age. Absolutely right. After that, name and age to everyone. Name and age to everyone. ठीक है, सही है. Name and age to everyone. अब ये बताओ what you will keep to yourself. What you want to keep? Myself, password and secrets. Okay. And friends, close friends. What you are going to share with your close friends? Everyone name and age. Okay. Everyone name and age. Secrets, password to myself. Right. So what you have written, that's absolutely right. What will happen when you're sharing the information? Your name and age you can tell to everyone. There is no secrecy in the name, there is no secrecy to the age, and you're going to share it with everyone. So this type of information we say it is public. Public means you are completely comfortable, or the class is completely comfortable to share the information with other classes, other functions. Next is private. What you're going to keep very much private is your password. So your password you're not going to share with anyone, be it your best friend, and like at times you don't even like to share it with your parents also. So password is something that you want that only you should know the password. गलती से किसी को पता भी चल गया password, then what do you use to do? You change the password immediately. Now, like what I thought, like your perception was different. I thought that secrets and KT records we can share with our close friend. So secrets, obviously there are some close friends, very close, with who knows everything about us. So generally we share our secrets, and KT records also we can share with the close friends. We don't tell everyone about our KT records, but we are comfortable to share it with our friends who are close and who are trustworthy. So you can say there are 3 levels of information sharing. So first one is everyone, which in terms of your programming language or object oriented you say as public. Next is myself, that is private. You don't want to share it with anyone. You want to protect the data. You want to have your data completely secure, and only you should have the right to access it. Then the third thing is protected. Protected is something that you can share with close friends. In this case, close friends are some other reliable classes. So we'll be talking about the protected later, but for now, for sure, we are going to use the public and private access specifiers. Now, when we are talking in the formal language, we'll say there are 2 access specifier. That means there are 2 levels of security, 3 levels of security. So these are public, protected and private. Now these are the restrictions. The more secure and the more restricted one, the most restricted one is your private data. Next one is protected data, and the least restricted and the least secured out of all is public. Obviously public will also have the security, but comparatively it is going to be less secure than your private and protected. Now within the class, if you have created a class, and within the class if there are some functions, some variables, so if your data is private, then also within the class you can access it. If your data is protected, then also within the class you can access it, and if it is public, then also within the class you can access it. So within the class, or you can say within yourself, everything information about yourself you are going to tell yourself. Public hogi, private or protected, be it your secret, be it your name, be it your password, but you are the one who knows everything. So it's the same concept. Within the class के अंदर the class will be having rights to each and every element which is there inside the class, be it private, be it protected, be it public. Now the next thing is outside the class. Outside the class you will pass only the public information. So to the whole world you're going to just tell your age and name. Protected information will not be passed on, and private information will not be passed on. So outside the class, only public information is something which is accessible from outside the class also. And the last one is our protected. So whenever we are talking about protected, there is a concept of derived class which we are going to study in inheritance. When we are going to cover the topic inheritance, then the derived class thing will come into picture. For now, you just know that private data is not accessible in derived class, but protected and public could be accessed from the derived class. What exactly is derived class? We are not going to discuss it as of now. So now what we can say, within the same class we have access to all the elements, be it public, private or protected. Outside the class only public data is available. Private and protected are not available or not accessible from outside the class. And in the derived class for now you can understand as your friend class, like your friend. With your friends you can share your secrets but not your password. So in the derived class you can share the protected data and public data but not the private data. So guys, I just hope this is clear to you that we have 3 levels of security in classes for the safety of our member functions and member variables. Okay, now we'll see the same concept in terms of programming. So this is a simple program to show encapsulation. So we have included iostream.h, we have included the namespace, now the class encapsulation. So we have named our class as encapsulation. Now we'll see what is the content of your class encapsulation. So first thing is private. We said that access specifier is private. We put a colon, this is the syntax how we write it, and after that we define a variable. The name of the variable is x. So private, under the private access specifier category we have a variable x. After that we have another security level, that is public. So under public we have a function. What this function name is? The function name is set. What it is doing? It is setting the value of variable x. So we have 2 things in the class. The first one is the variable x, which is under the private safety levels, you can say private access specifier, and your set function is under public access specifier. Now we'll see what difference will it make if the data is under private or data is under public access specifier. Now we have another function get. What get is doing? Get is simply returning the value of x. We have written public, we have put a colon. Now until and unless we specify another access specifier. So we'll see here the public access specifier is there, no another access specifier, no another, till the end the access specifier will remain as public only. So your set method will be under public access specifier as well as your get method will be under public access specifier. Private started, we were covering everything under private, then public came into picture. Now after this, if no other access specifier is specified, then everything after this line will be under public access specifier. Fine. Now the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to check how to access these elements, how to access x variable, set function and get function. So we are here in the main function. In the main function, as we know, when we are using classes, the existence of classes is only with the existence of objects. So first thing that we need to do for sure is to create the object of class encapsulation. So how we are going to create the object? I hope you people remember what we are going to do. We are going to simply write the name of the class. This is the name of the class and then the name of the object. So we have created the object. The name of the object is obj. So obj is the object through which we can access the data which is there inside the class encapsulation. So if we want to access x variable or we want to access set function or get function, for all three of that we need the object obj. Now what we'll do, we'll use obj.set. So with obj object we are calling the set function. So what will happen after this file? Set function will be called and 5 will be passed as the argument to set function. With the set function we can set the value of x as a. Now your set function and get functions are public. That is the reason we are able to call these functions even from outside the class. Your class started here. This is where your class started and your class ended with this closing bracket and semicolon. Now we are writing the main function. Main function is outside the class. From outside the class, through the use of object, we are able to access the set function only because set function is defined as of type public. So the access specifier for set function is public. That's why it was possible to access the set function from outside the class. Although we are providing one safety level, that is we cannot access set function without the object, but still if we create the object we are able to access the set function. Next thing is get function. So again what we are doing, cout obj.get, we are calling the get function using the object of the class encapsulation. Now again get function is also under the public category, that's why we are able to call the get function using the obj object. Next thing is this variable x. This variable x is private. Suppose if we feel like accessing the variable x, then if we write obj dot x, we are using the object of the class encapsulation and we say object obj dot x, but this will not be allowed. This is not going to be allowed because your variable x is private variable. So private variable, as the definition says, are the variables which cannot be accessed from outside the class. Main function, in main function, whatever you do, whatever things you try, you will never be able to access your variable x directly. But we can always access this variable x. How? We can access this variable x by the functions which are inside the class. So set and get function are inside the class. From inside the class, set can access x and get can access x. So this is what is your private data. Private data could be used only by the members of that class. For private data, set can use your x variable, get can use your x variable, but your main can never use your x variable directly. Main will have the access to x variable but indirectly. Main has called set, set has set x variable. So there is a cycle. Main will be calling the set function and set function will be having the access to x variable. So this is how your this public and private access specifiers come into picture when we are talking about the safety of your data. Next, what is the role of these access specifiers in your encapsulation? So when we have seen encapsulation, the first thing that we learned about encapsulation is safety of data, putting data together. We were just we took that example of capsule. Inside the capsule we are protecting the powder from the outside world and nobody knows what is there inside the capsule, whether it is granules or powders. If the powder is there, which color powder, nobody knows about that. So we'll see encapsulation mein what is the role of your access specifier. So access specifiers, they play a very important role when for the concept of encapsulation. The process of implementing encapsulation can be divided into two steps. There could be two steps through which we can define encapsulation. The first one is regarding your member variables and the second one is regarding your member function. So we'll see how. So the data members, that is like our x variable in the last example, should be labeled as private. So this is your general practice. Just keep this in mind. Whenever we are writing programs, generally we keep our variables, or you can say the data members, in the private access specifier. We keep them as private so that from outside nobody can touch our variables directly and nobody can get the values of variable, or you can say manipulate the value of variable. So the general practice is that we keep our data members as private and we keep our member functions as public. So member functions are the something that will be used to perform a task. Obviously we want our functions to be used properly and efficiently, so we give the public access for our member function so that from outside the class also, from main, we can call these functions and we can perform the required task, but we keep our variables as more safe, so that if you are talking about a bank account class, you can say, so your balance will be kept as private and your withdraw and deposit will be public function. So only withdraw function will have the right to change your balance value. It should not happen that main function, inside the main function you're creating one more function, fraud function, and that fraud function is directly changing the value of your account like balance. So balance will be kept more safe so that balance could be accessed by the functionalities which are defined inside the class. So guys, I just hope this is clear to you what is encapsulation and what is the role of access specifiers when we are talking in terms of encapsulation. Now the next thing is, what are the advantages of encapsulation? So when we are talking encapsulation, like why exactly do we need to implement this level of safety and security to our data? So the first thing is, encapsulation makes your code more flexible and it is easy to make changes. Why it is easy to make changes? Because if you want to add some more functionality, one more function, maybe to a particular aspect of your application, you will just go to that class. In that class, all the functions and relative variables are saved or they are preserved. So what you'll do, you'll simply add one function to that class. That function will be acting on the variables of that class only. Next is, encapsulation make unit testing easy. Obviously we are dividing our whole program into small classes, so we know which particular aspect of our application we need to work upon. So we'll go to that particular class and we will make the required changes, or we will just check what is going wrong with that particular class functions. Encapsulation allows you to control who can access what. So encapsulation, as we have said, private and public access specifiers, they give us the right to decide that which variable should be accessible from within the class only, and for which variables we are allowing that outside the class also functions can access those variables. Next thing is, what encapsulation does, it reduces the coupling of modules. Within the modules the coupling is reduced and cohesion, across the modules the coupling is reduced and cohesion within the single module is increased. So what happens, a class individually becomes important and strong and it does not affects the other class. So all the class are individually strong in themselves and they're not going to affect the working or the data of each other. So these are all the advantages of using encapsulation. The last one, we'll say that encapsulation allows you to change one part of the code without affecting the other part of the code. So the reason is same only, that we are having different classes. If you want to make changes with the function with respect to one class, you'll go to that class, you'll make the changes, and the other classes and other functions are not going to get affected. So guys, so this was encapsulation. Now if it is clear to everyone, quickly show me a thumbs up and let me know if we can move to the other topic, that is abstraction. So is this clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I can see some thumbs. Okay guys, chalo, we'll move to the next topic. Let's fetch the attendance. So the next topic related to object oriented programming that we are going to cover is your abstraction. So we have seen what is encapsulation. Now we are going to see what is abstraction. So before going into the technical definition or programming definition of abstraction, we'll just discuss at a general level what do we mean about abstraction. Now you look at this image, so can you comment anything about this image? Any thought that is coming in your mind looking at this image? You can either write in the chat or you can unmute yourself and answer. Yeah, looking at this image, can you say anything? Kuch bhi, you can just talk about the color, maybe the figures that are there on the image, or if you think there is some relation with any random thing of this image that you can comment upon. Yeah, nobody's coming out. Priyal, can you say something about this image? or Raghav? Yeah, guys, unmute yourself and answer. Priyal and Raghav.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, there are different patterns. It's colorful.
Okay, so Raghav is saying there are different patterns and it is colorful. That's completely right. So, Priyal, what is your thought about it?
Yes, that it is colorful and it has different objects and it's artsy.
Okay, so she has come with some another thought. Rushi, can you say something about the image, Rushi? And Sid, after Rushi, Sid. Yeah, Rushi, unmute yourself.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about this image?
Ma'am, design.
Design, there are different designs, Rushi is saying. And Sid,
Ma'am, it has random patterns.
it has random patterns. Okay. So everybody has their own thought about the image, and this image might look colorful to someone. Like when like one of you saw that there are more colors in this image, another person said that there are different designs, another person that said there are different shapes, and some other person might be saying some other thing about the image. So, and we have some philosophical type of people in case in the class, they might be making like for them this image might be making some sense, like some celebrations are going on, music is there, and some strings are there. So everybody will be having their own perception, and for no one I can say that you have given the wrong answer for this, because looking at this image nothing is much clear. It is an abstract image. So you must have heard about the word abstract. So what do we say, what are the abstract images in which the things are not very much clear? There's something that the painter wants to portray. Some person who is looking at the image, he or she might see that picture with the same viewpoint which the painter has made it, or maybe the person might think of something else. When I was talking to you people, you are all engineering students, so you talked more in terms of shapes, designs and patterns. If I might be asking this question maybe to a art student, he or she might be talking about the use of color, how this celebration things are there, what combinations are used. So it depends upon the thinking of the person, how that person looks that image as. So for this image I just want to tell you it's a very costly abstract painting which was done by Visually in the year 1939, and it costed like some millions of dollars. It was sold very expensive, but for us, like, we don't have that much knowledge of art, we will simply think it is some pattern, some design which is there on the screen. So that depends from person to person how this abstract work is grasped by that person. So this is what we are talking in terms of painting. But when we are talking in terms of our programming language, the abstraction is something similar only. Now if you'll see at this car, if an engineer, or you can say automobile engineer, will be looking at this car, she might be looking at this car in terms of design, in terms of the mechanism, like in terms of weight. She might be putting some formula, so she'll be looking at this car with all technical aspects. For her this will be like some thought provoking thing, that what should be the mechanism of this car, how, what should be the design of this car, all these aspects she will be thinking about. On the other hand, maybe if one of you is looking at this car, he or she might be thinking, yeah, this is good, yeah, if we'll get this car so I can have a good reputation, I can go out with my friends, like very good car, like superb car. All these thoughts might be coming in your mind. So what is abstraction? That looking at one thing, people can have different perspective, and there is no definite goal or no definite information is there that should be conceived by everyone similarly. So this abstraction means what is the internal details are hidden, and it's only the upper perspective. Upper view is visible. Now it's up to you how you conceive or how you think about that upper view. So abstraction includes the essential details relative to the representation of view. So abstraction is when you just see upar se and you don't go into the internal details of the thing. Now if you will talk about another example of Uber app. So Uber app, like we hardly use that app these days all thanks to lockdown. But like, I'm sure all of you must have used the Uber app 1.5 years ago. So what happens on the Uber app? You book the cab, you get the user interface. On the user interface, you'll get to know that this prime car today is having this much rent, as compared to that a smaller car is having lower rent. Now in the morning, if you will check the price will be different. In the evening, the price will be different. And after that, you think, yeah, there must be some logic behind this. Maybe in the evening time, it is office time, so they are giving more price for the same route. But next day when you see in the afternoon also the price was equally high, then you don't really know the logic, what is going in the background of allocation of rents for those cars. But you just see the interface. This is abstraction. Why? Because you just see the upper view, you don't get to know what is the logic behind. Looking at the app, you might be knowing all the languages, but you are not sure which language this app must be coded into, or what must be the modules of this app. So all these details are hidden from the user. This is abstraction, that you give the upper view, you give the abstract view, but you don't give the internal details of your class, I must say. Okay, so this is the concept of your abstraction. Looking at the car, everyone will be having some other perception. Nobody gets to know about the internal view. Same way for the Uber cab. When you are booking the Uber cab, you will just check which is the more luxury car and what are the rents for the luxury car. Maybe when your mother is looking into it, she might be looking into which is the car which is having the least rent. So it depends from person to person. The third person might be thinking how much time it will take for me to reach to my destination, because I have to reach to my office on time. So it depends from person to person what details he or she might be exploring in this Uber cab app. Fine. So now we'll move towards the formal definition of data abstraction. So data abstraction, that is also called as information hiding. We are hiding the internal details. We are just giving the Uber wala user interface view. We are not telling whether the Uber cab app is coded in Android, or we have used C++ also for it, or whether we have used Python, we have used Java. We are not passing on that information. So as the less information is available to the world, the more secure our data is. The more information we'll pass on, there are more chances that people will try to attack on that information. So what do? We hide the unwanted information. We're just giving you the UI of Uber cab app. We are not telling you how we have coded it, or what are the modules, what are the variables in that Uber cab app, or what is the logic that we have applied to calculate the rent of cabs. So all those details we are hiding from the customer. To the customer, we are just showing the user interface. So what is abstraction? Data abstraction, or also this is called as information hiding. It refers to providing only essential information to the outside world and hiding their background details. That is, we are just providing the information which is necessary to be passed on to the customer. Now when we are talking about data abstraction ke andar we can also cover data encapsulation. What we are doing in data encapsulation, we are putting classes, or you can say member functions and member variable of the class in one pack. That pack is class. So we are providing safety to data. We are packing things so that it is not visible to outside world. As we have taken the example of capsule, that the powder inside the capsule is not visible from outside until and unless we open that capsule. So abstraction and encapsulation both provide safety to your data, and they are somehow related because they are working on the security of the data. Okay, now what is abstraction? When we'll say abstraction is a process of providing only essential details to the outside world and hiding the internal details, that is representing only the essential details in the program. In the programs, what is necessary, we are only showing that, and we are hiding the internal details of the program. Next is data abstraction is a programming technique that depends on the separation of interface and implementation details. So interface, that is the user interface, is Uber interface is visible to the user, but background implementation details are not visible to the Uber app users. So both in C++ and Java, we do provide a great level of abstraction. One of the example you can say is the pow function of C language. Also in C language you have used pow function, so the similar pow function is there in your C++ also. Now when we are doing data abstraction, there are two ways of securing your, say, like hiding the unnecessary information with data abstraction. One is abstraction using classes, and another one is abstraction using header files, or you can say packages in your Java. So header files are there in C++ and packages are there in Java. Now abstraction using classes. So in a class has the responsibility to determine which data member should be visible from outside the class. How? Public and private we have already discussed. So if we are keeping the members as private, so we are hiding the members from outside the class function. So if our variable is private, that means from outside you cannot access that variable. So that way we are implementing safety of data or abstraction of data using in classes. Next is header file. So in the header file also you must have seen header files hides the implementation details from the user. Header files, guys, as I've told you earlier, I've written all these contents for you to read. So when you are referring these PPTs in the future, this will be helpful to you. But as of now, we are not going to read all this theory. So I'm just telling you header files. What do we do in header files? When we are including printf and scanf function in our program, we just know that the name of the function is printf scanf, or you can say cout, cin, or system.out.println. All these functions, we just know the name of the function. We don't know what exactly is the logic that they have applied in cout, or what exactly is the logic that they have implemented in system.out.println function. So through header files, through packages, we are hiding the internal logic, and we are just showing the name of the function to the programmer who is using this function. So this is one quite simple example. So iostream in math.h and math.h. Inside math.h we have the function power function. So when we include the power function in our program, one thing we know for sure, that this is going to give the power. So when we are writing pow 3 comma n, then it is going to give the 4 power 3 is the output that we are going to get. But we really don't know what logic they must be applying behind, how they are calculating the power, whether they are using multiplication, like they are using 4 into 4 into 4 3 times, or there is some other logic, maybe addition logic, or what logic they are applying to calculate the power, that we don't know. So this way, using this power function, we are providing abstraction. We are just giving the name of the function. We are not giving the internal details of that function pow. So this is how, after that, as I've told you earlier, abstraction and encapsulation sounds bit similar, as both are providing safety to data, but there are many differences also when we are talking about abstraction and encapsulation, and I'll give you people this as an assignment. So although I've written it in the slides, like what are the differences and what are the similarities in both, but still this is one slide that you have to read at your own, and you have to understand the concepts. In nutshell, I can say encapsulation is about the how part, how we have implemented the logic, and abstraction is about what part, what is implemented, what functionality is there. That is what we talk about in abstraction, and how we have implemented is related to encapsulation. So I'll just leave this slide to you people. Now from the word inheritance only we get like what exactly must be inheritance about when you inherit something. So, and that is generally when we talk about inheritance, we might talk about the property that we inherit from our parents. So what your parents might have inherited from your grandparents. So that is inheritance. That is something that you are getting from your parents or parents ke parents. So when we talk about inheritance, inheritance is, I'm talking about general language right now. We are not yet moved to the programming. So in inheritance, what can you inheritance? You can inherit the property. You might get the car of your dad once you're 18 plus. So your dad might give his car to you and he might buy a new one. So this is what you inherit. You might take your dad's mobile, or maybe your height, you're really good heighted. That might be because one of your parents is really good heighted, so you have taken height, or you have inherited height from your parents. Or there might be some other things, maybe your nature, somebody might be saying like your nature is similar to your mom's nature, so you have inherited that from your mother. So there are many things that we inherit, but whenever we talk about inheritance, be it inheriting a house or be it inheriting good height, all these are through your parents or family only. It never happens that your neighbor has given his house to you. So it never happens this way. There is direct relation between the person who has inherited and from whom he or she has inherited. So generally it's your parents or your grandparents, I must say. So the same thing is there in case of programming as well, or object oriented features as well, that when we are talking about inheritance is the you must say it is the most powerful feature in object oriented programming, because there is something already available, some codes are already available. What the new module does, it inherits the code from the previous module, so you don't have to rewrite. So reusability is something that is possible because of inheritance. So this is something like son, I am the base class, so there is something called as base class in inheritance, and there is derived class. What is derived class? Derived class is one who inherits from the base class. So the son always inherits properties from mother. It never happens कि मम्मी बच्चे से inherit कर रही हैं. It always happens in one way, that a son is going to inherit maybe the nature by her mother, maybe eyes or height or anything. Son is going to inherit from his mother. So that is one directional inheritance exists. So the same way in programming also there is one directional inheritance only, and the main advantage of inheritance is reusability. So inheritance is the process of creating new classes from derived class, from existing or base class. So derived class is something that is new, and from where it is created from the base class. So mother is the base class and son is the derived class. Son is into the existence because of the base class. So derived class inherits all the capabilities of the base class, but can add its own functionalities and refinements as well. So in case of programming, what happens? Whatever is there in the derived class, all that will be inherited by the base class. So it generally happens at our home also, like mama daddy ka whatever things are there, we feel कि it's our only. So unki things pe to we have full rights, but when it is our mobile, we don't allow them to access it. So what happens? My mother's mobile I can use, my dad's mobile I can use, my mother's car I can use, everything mummy daddy ka we can use, but when it is about my mobile is my mobile. I am not going to share the password with mama and daddy. So the same thing happens in your programming also. Like derived class is going to inherit all the capabilities of the base class, as well as there will be some additional functionalities which will be there only in derived class. So we'll see what exactly do we mean by this. So we'll take a simple example. The base class is graduate class. So whenever we are talking about classes in object oriented programming, we know classes are nothing but member functions and member variables, that is int x, int a, int b, and get, set, all these are functions. So they are going to be, a class is going to be a collection of variables and functions. So let's take this graduate class as a base class, and from the graduate class we are creating a new class, and the new class is named as engineering graduate. Fine. So this arrow denotes that engineering graduate is being derived from graduate class. So graduate class mein there is a function A and there is a function B, and in the engineering graduate class what will happen? A copy of function A will come, a copy of function B will come. It will come the moment this class has been created from the base class. So engineering graduate will definitely have function A and function B. So when we are talking about graduate, there might be some characteristics or functionalities of graduate, but when we are talking about engineering graduates, it will have the functionality of graduate, but there will be something additional when we are talking about engineering student. Generally when we talk about engineering student, like they have some other attitude only, okay, we are engineering graduate, so they feel there's something add on to it. So there will be a function C which will be there only for engineering graduates and will not be there in the normal simple graduate class. So derived class defined only in derived class. So this is how the functions of base class are passed on to the derived class. A and B, which are there in base class, will be having its copy in derived class also, and derived class will have additional functions also. So derived class must, we can say, will be having more features, more add-ons, and will be better because it is having base class ka things also and it is having additional things as well. If we think of adding something here in the base class, automatically that will be added into your derived class as well. So this is how inheritance works. Now a simple example will be of bowlers, the bowlers that they are there in cricket. So you can take a simple example. There will be a parent class. The parent class is bowler. So parent class will be having a function named as bowling method. So there will be a base bowling method. So all the bowlers will definitely be having some bowling methods. Now what will be the derived class? The derived class could be your fast pacer or your medium pacer and spinner. So these are three derived class. So this is defining the base thing that sub bowlers will be having a bowling method, but the child class is going to give more refined thing. It is going to specify more clearly that fast pacer will be having one additional thing, maybe some speed, or that you guys must be knowing it better. What more can be added when we are talking about fast pacers? What more can be added when we are talking about medium pacer, and what about the spinner? So when we are talking about the bowlers, all the bowlers are bowlers, but when we are talking about fast pacer, then Brett Lee is one of the fast pacer bowler. Then Irfan Khan, we can say, he is medium pacer. Same way Harbhajan Singh is spinner. So this is the concept of your parent and base class. So parent class is a general, you can say, specification, and the derived class are more specific. So we'll take this as the last slide for the day. So base class does not inherit from any class. Base class obviously will not inherit from any class. It is the derived class that is going to inherit from base class or classes. You might inherit one feature from your mother, another feature you can inherit from your father. So derived class can inherit from multiple base classes. There might be something in you which you have got it from your grandmom. There might be something which you have got from your mom and something from your dad. So you can inherit from multiple people. Same way derived class can inherit from one class or from classes. There is something called as single inheritance. What is single inheritance? When like for you, sometimes we say like he looks completely like his dad in everything, be it by looks wise or nature or everything. That is single inheritance. That the derived class only inherits from one base class. You have taken all your inherited features from your dad only. And the another thing is multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance when you derive from or inherit from multiple classes. So you can say that his height is like his dad, but his features are like his mom. So this is when you are inheriting from your mom and dad as well. So multiple classes you are inheriting from. So these are the two types of inheritance, I must say, single inheritance and multiple inheritance. So guys, I think that's it for today. So we'll continue